This film begins by introducing a man named Kaslow, an FBI informant assigned to pretend to be a gangster. It turns out he is an inmate who was recruited by the FBI agents. Currently, Kaslow is hiding a bugging device in his pants. The FBI then calls Kaslow and informs him that the leader of the gang will be bringing 6 kilos of narcotics to be distributed. Kaslow is instructed to catch him, and his mission will be complete. He then calls his friend, a fellow gangster named Sprejic, and asks him to bring the boss. Afterward, Kaslow secures his wife and child from danger. We are then introduced to an FBI agent named Wilcop, who asks his boss for permission to carry out the mission of finding the narcotics dealer. Wilcop instructs his team to gather and strategize to catch the narcotics dealer, a man named Climax. Now, Kaslow has become a fugitive from the FBI. Wilcop orders his men not to kill Kaslow because he is also an FBI agent. After securing his wife, Sophia, Kaslow promises he will return once the mission is completed. Sophia is given a secret key that she must use when Kaslow instructs her. Before the mission, Kaslow meets with Wilcop, where he is handed a phone and the bugging device is checked to ensure it is properly installed. Wilcop also gives Kaslow a code to use in case of emergency. If things go wrong, Kaslow must pretend to do something, and the FBI will meet him. The next day, Kaslow heads out with Sprejic to pick up the narcotics. However, Kaslow is unaware that there will be a beer for the narcotics. Initially, the drugs were supposed to be delivered to Climax, but Kaslow is forced to meet the beer instead. The beer turns out to be a man named Daniel, who seems suspicious because he doesn't act like a typical drug addict. His suspicion grows when Daniel doesn't have enough money to buy 6 kilos of narcotics. Daniel confesses to being an ex-convict from Bell Hill, just like Kaslow. Kaslow then mentions a friend in prison, but Daniel is clueless about it. Daniel buys the narcotics, but only half a kilo. Realizing this, Kaslow becomes suspicious and believes Daniel might be an undercover cop. Kaslow tries to signal Daniel to escape before Sprejic kills him. However, Daniel is clueless about the code. Daniel eventually admits that he is indeed a cop, and Sprejic arrives and shoots Daniel dead. Kaslow immediately exits, signaling to Wilcop. However, Wilcop, knowing a cop has been killed, quickly assembles a rescue team and leaves. Kaslow is panicked as the situation doesn't go according to plan, and Wilcop abandons him. Sprejic orders Kaslow to clean up Daniel's body. Kaslow and his friend then head to Climax, who turns out to be the boss of the gang. Climax beats Sprejic for killing a cop, as it could ruin his drug business. Climax tells Kaslow to surrender to the police so they will stop searching for the killer. This will save Climax business. Kaslow will serve for years in prison because Climax will have his lawyer appeal and arrange for parole. Climax also orders Kaslow to distribute narcotics inside the prison. He threatens to make Kaslow's wife and child suffer if he refuses. Kaslow reluctantly accepts the offer. Chad immediately calls Agent Wilcop to express his disappointment, as Kaslow was supposed to bring the drugs to Climax. Meanwhile, the police find Daniel's body in a lake. Detective Edouard from the Criminal Division arrives, revealing that Daniel was one of his men and had recently become a cop. Edouard then reviews CCTV footage from the scene, showing Kaslow leaving the bar. The next night, Kaslow meets with Agent Wilcop and his superior, who instructs him to follow Climax game. However, while in prison, Kaslow must write down the names of people associated with Climax. Kaslow is disappointed because this means he will return to prison. Kaslow secretly records his conversations with Agent Wilcop, which will serve as evidence of the FBI's betrayal. The scene shifts to Edouard, who initially suspected Kaslow of killing Daniel. However, after receiving information from his colleague, he learns that Kaslow is a former military sniper. He was sent to prison for killing someone in a bar, but the case was odd because it involved FBI agents. When Kaslow is about to return to prison, he meets Agent Wilcop, who asks him to fulfill a few requests. The first request is to search through the inmates to identify those who might be a threat. The second is to enter a program in Seoul, and the final request is for Wilcop to send a flower laced with narcotics for Kaslow to distribute to complete his mission. However, Wilcop refuses the last request, deeming it too dangerous. In the end, Kaslow is placed in a prison cleanup unit, while Chad heads to Climax and parties. Edouard follows him. The next day, Kaslow pretends to torture his wife to ensure he is sent to prison. His plan succeeds, and Edouard is shocked when Kaslow is suddenly arrested. Kaslow is placed with black inmates, who turn out to be loyal to Climax. They give him money to keep him safe. Meanwhile, Edouard approaches Wilcop and inquires about Kaslow, who should have been sentenced to 20 years, but instead, he is released on parole after only 5 years. Edouard suspects FBI involvement, but Wilcop insists there's nothing amiss. However, when Edouard shows a photo of Daniel's death scene with Kaslow present, he starts suspecting Wilcop. Wilcop is left with no defense. Sophia secretly hides the narcotics in a pigeon's stomach, and Stagic sends it into prison using a drone. The next morning, Kaslow hides the pigeon as he cleans up. Meanwhile, Edouard continues to investigate Daniel's murder and visits Kaslow's wife, asking for information about Kaslow and the FBI. Sophia hesitates but eventually gives Edouard the information, and in return, he promises to help Kaslow get out of prison. Before leaving, Edouard leaves her a business card in case she needs help. Back in prison, the drug distribution is still running smoothly. One of the inmates, an associate of Edouard, tells Kaslow that a black gang will attack him. To survive, he must ally with Edouard. The attack happens, and Kaslow is beaten by the gang and the guards. They hang him with a rope to make his death appear like a suicide. Kaslow reveals that he is an FBI informant and threatens to expose the gang's connection to Climax. Upon hearing this, the gang releases Kaslow, as Climax is a rival to their business. They now support Kaslow's plan to destroy Climax operation. Meanwhile, Wilcop and his superior are in trouble as Edouard requests information on Kaslow from the FBI in Washington. It turns out Kaslow's name doesn't appear in the system. Wilcop's superior orders him to eliminate Kaslow before he can reveal the truth to Edouard. However, Wilcop refuses because Kaslow is willing to help him. The scene shifts to Kaslow, who, with the help of the Black Gang, learns the names connected to Climax. Kaslow calls Wilcop to inform him that his mission is a success, but Wilcop cuts the call short. Kaslow begins to suspect that the FBI has betrayed him and calls his wife to warn her to escape. He tells her to use the key he gave her earlier. Meanwhile, Wilcop meets Climax, who has ordered his gang to kill Kaslow. Sophia opens a box with the key, finding a recording tape containing evidence about Kaslow and Wilcop. Wilcop arrives, takes the tape, and gives Sophia money, instructing her to go to a safer place. As she travels, Wilcop listens to the tape and remembers his promise to save Kaslow, leaving him confused about what to do. Back in prison, Kaslow receives a code from the Black Gang, indicating that he is in danger. Soon, an inmate tries to attack him, but Kaslow manages to kill him. The guards sound the alarm, and Kaslow takes one of them hostage, leading him to the upper floor. Elsewhere, Stagic meets with Sophia and calls Edouard for help. Wilcop's superior plans to go to prison and eliminate Kaslow. Edouard arrives and rescues Sophia. When he tries to enter the prison, Stagic shoots Edouard. Just as Stagic is about to shoot again, Sophia manages to shoot him. However, Edouard is surrounded by special forces. He quickly changes into a guard's uniform and tricks the snipers, but their shot hits a gas canister. At the same time, Wilcop arrives at the scene and believes Kaslow has died in the explosion. Wilcop follows Kaslow, who is being transported by ambulance, but Kaslow is still alive. Wilcop decides to save him and provides Kaslow with a gun, making him his captive. Later, at the dock, Wilcop's superior continues to insist that Kaslow must be eliminated, but Wilcop refuses. Soon, Edward arrives with his forces and arrests Wilcop's boss, accusing him of ordering the execution of Kaslow. Kaslow, now free, can only watch his wife and child from a distance, unable to meet them because special forces are watching him.